Welcome to today's episode of the Hot and Steamy podcast. We'd like to first recognize our sponsors, Kelly Garza of Steamy Chick and Kimberly Ann Johnson of MAGA Mamas. Follow them on Instagram at Steamy Chick and at MAGA Mamas.
Hot, steamy, hot, steamy, hot, steamy, hot, steamy, hot, steamy.
Okay, so we're ready for our guest interview for today's episode, and I'm very excited about this guest. I met her a couple of months ago. We did a panel together on mental health, and she's just brilliant and wonderful and amazing. And I'm just so excited to have her here today. Her name is Jaycina Almond. Welcome, Jaycina.
Guys, thank you. Let me not blush and get all bashful.
So Jaycina is a mommy and a model and an entrepreneur. And that is the bio she gave me to introduce her. And that's such a great description because she's just really so like, this is all you need to know. But it is so much. Those three things are so much.
So.
Yeah. Was there anything in that bio that is left out? Like, is there anything that more you'd like to tell us about yourself?
No, I feel like that's really like at the foundation of who I am. That's it.
Yeah. That's really cool. I feel like my bio, I have like a one-liner version, and then I have like a paragraph version, and then like a full page.
How deep do you want to get to know me here?
Yeah, it's so intense. Okay. So you're kind of known as like the mommy model or the model mommy. I guess those two mean two different things when you put them in different order. But I feel like they're both true. So can you tell us a little bit what it's like to raise a daughter in the modeling industry?
Okay, yeah. For me, I guess, being in an industry that is based, off your looks and stuff, I feel like I'm raising a daughter, first of all. So you have to be, aware of the things that you do in front of her and make sure that, I'm the example of, self-love and confidence and stuff, her first example will be. So even though I work in, a vain industry or, that's based on beauty, I still really don't want to put a lot of emphasis on that for her growing up, because even she has been in shoots and she has been on set and blah 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 blah, so she's been exposed to that, but I don't want that to be everything to her, so there's that side of it, and then there's the side of where you're working and juggling a toddler and all of that, so you have to there's definitely pros and cons, because I get to stay home with her too, though, because my career allows me to. I can travel for work, but there's some weeks where I don't have anything to do and I'm just home for a month until I have a job, So there's pros and cons to like everything. There's pros and cons to it. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I've seen Six in shoots with you before, and they're always really cute. And I know in some other interviews I read, you talk a little bit about how Six has brought you a whole lot of career blessings. And this isn't something in the conversation about moms and career, we don't often get to see. Right. That being said, can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that?
So for me, in the beginning, my only choice was to incorporate Six into my work, because it was just me. I didn't have anybody to watch her. Her dad was away. And so I had no choice but to figure out how he was going to still chase my dreams and be a mom, So it was from asking if I can bring her to set. And then it was, oh, you're breastfeeding and there's a new brand for breastfeeding moms. And, oh, so can you shoot that campaign? And then it was also, I got pregnant and was nursing around the whole time that breastfeeding became a movement and stuff. And so all of those things allowed me to be able to be a mom and have a career at the same time, and kind of benefit from the movements and the activism that was going around now, happening now. She's 2.5 now. So it was kind of at the beginning where it was still like, oh, you're making a statement when you're breastfeeding in public, Mm-hmm. So it was like brands wanted to, of course, capitalize on that and be, and make sure they're being inclusive and stuff like that. So we got asked to do campaigns for brands, and then we got to do bigger campaigns, because they saw, oh, here's a mom that is actually a model and we can include her in these things, mm-hmm. to where usually it's kind of unheard of, that having a baby on set and being because that's a privilege to be able to work and bring your baby to work. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, when clients understood the situation, they were open and willing to work with me. So it for me, it was a blessing, mm-hmm. and that's a lot of my big first campaigns were with Six. So that allowed me to work and get my name out and build kind of a portfolio. And then I was able to start doing work that was just with me. So, yeah.
That's really cool. Was it the same when you were pregnant? Did it start during pregnancy?
No, for me, I wasn't signed when I was pregnant, and I didn't realize that I could still model while I was pregnant. I got pregnant when I was 20, and you go through that, what am I going to do? All my dreams are now, what am I going to do? I'm 20 and pregnant, and I don't know what I'm going to do, because I thought I was going to model. And so I think I was definitely in a little bit of freaking out mode and didn't realize it was possible, mm-hmm. until I had her. And then I was you have no choice but to make it happen. You have no choice, because you have to do something with your life. Yeah. And this is what you want,
It's amazing how often that is the answer. When we ask our friends about parenting, they're just it just works out. You figure it out.
Yeah. No, everybody asks me how do you balance it, and how do you I'm as a mom, you don't really have a choice. Who else is gonna, nobody else is gonna raise her. So I just have to figure out how to make it work. You just figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have a question? Okay. Okay. So Mike and I, as you know, are sort of approaching pregnancy and parenthood. It's very exciting, but in true sort of Jolly and Mike form, we would just want to research everything possible out there about it.
Of course.
Are you willing to talk with us about your journey into parenthood?
Yeah, it's my favorite thing.
Oh, good.
Of course. Do you have any specifics or?
Yeah, from that moment of okay, I'm pregnant. It seems maybe it wasn't planned. You were freaking out a little bit.
Too. I was 20 and I knew I was taking Depo. And so, you have the 12 months after Depo where it's still in your body. And I knew, I was okay, this month, April, this is when it stops working. Okay. And I had a conversation with her dad, and we just didn't take any other precautions. The next month it happened. Right. There was it was yeah, here you go. So it was I think we both wanted a baby, and we just were I'm not going to be the crazy one to say, let's do it. So we're if it happens, and it's not maybe it would happen, but that's how biology works.
Right.
So yeah. And then me not thinking it was going to happen at 20, I'm oh, I'm so happy. This is the greatest thing, but also what the actual fuck am I going to do, So yeah, that's how that went. And it was at two pivotal moments, because when I got pregnant, her dad also, his career was just starting. And then it was everything for me was stopping because I'm pregnant, and I didn't realize that I could still go. So it was two different moments in our lives but we were going through pregnancy together,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, can you go into some of the conversations y'all had around, like, you saying you felt like yours were slowing down a little bit and his was kind of taking off?
Yeah.
What were some of the conversations around, since I'm a musician, and I understand him to be a musician as well, that's one of my fears around, having a family and having kids, is like, I don't really want to be on tour for 2 years or 5 years, you know. So yeah, what was that like?
And like I said, it's like you just have to do it for this is the first year of her life that he's not touring. So starting in January was the first year where he's not actually like doing a full tour. He's done like festivals and shows, but so like the first 2 years have been totally different than this year of her life, So yeah, touring is like, you're knowing you're sacrificing your time. Like, so her dad missed her birth. Like, and we were aware that was like a possibility. But since he's the breadwinner, and you have to, well, like back then he was like the sole person. So I think you just have to, we were just aware of like what was going to happen and what the possibilities were. And even though you're aware, but when you have a newborn and you're like, there's nobody here to help me, like, what am I supposed to do? It's still, it does create like anger and resentment and all of those things, even though it's like, you knew what you were getting into. That doesn't matter when it comes to like the feelings you feel. So I think it's just about like, you just have to trust each other. Like, I'm trusting that he's making the best decision for our family right now, like currently. And then I'm seeing it pay off, because now this year he has more time, and, he's been able to have 6 more. And there's been like, I went to New York and he was here for a month, So like, there's been like things like that, but you just have to like kind of trust in both like ways that you're being a parent. Cause for him, for the first 2 years, the best thing he could do was go work, and go tour. And that was him being his best father right then. And so I guess it's just like trusting and making sure that you guys are both, you just have to trust that you're both being the best parents that you can be, like with the given circumstances, because it is hard. Like, hard.
Yeah. And this is sort of, I mean, on the flip side of that, he has to trust that you're making these day-to-day decisions about like her behavior and her activity level and her diet and nutrition and her sleep. And
because it's a lot of like, he has to defer to me in those situations, because it's like, I wasn't here for this 6 months. So now I have to make sure I'm keeping him up to date on what's going on. I have to make sure that I'm saying, this is what we're eating, this is what we're learning, this is what we can't do, and this is what we are doing, and et cetera, et cetera. And he has to trust that I'm giving my best, So, but that's been like, those two things have been something that we've kind of just naturally fell into. And it helps when you guys both have the same parenting value, like foundational, like values and everything, because it works, like everything aligns, especially if one person is going to be like the main caregiver for an extended period of time. Having the same just like core values definitely helps out.
Yeah. And then what was this past month like? Like, was it weird for Six? Was it weird for him? Was it weird for you? Or was it sort of seamless?
So this year, it's been like, he lives mainly in LA. So the beginning of this year, she spent like 2 months in LA. And I think that was the first time where it was like, it was hard for all of us to kind of get used to it. But now we've kind of been swapping out, and he'll come here for months, or she'll go there. And now she kind of knows, like, she knows like daddy's house and mommy's house. And she knows, like, she's also 2.5, so she can recognize those things, and it's easier for her. So it kind of works out too, that she's this age when we're doing all like the swapping and moving, because she can understand. But so yeah, it's this past month she's fine. She just was happy to be with her dad for a month. But in the beginning, I think it's a transitional period for everybody involved, because, he's had to get his house together. He had to get off tour, and we were like sending Amazon list of like what you're going to need, So it's like, like those in the beginning is definitely is like everybody's learning, but then as time goes on, it gets easier. And now she's like, okay, I'm not daddy's house, I'm at mommy's house. And so it's easier now.
I know last year, Mike, you toured a little bit with Jimmy, and I popped in for a show and was really surprised how many moms and babies were on that tour.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
There were like, when I went to the show, there was actually a section it was like this huge arena. Oh, it was Mercedes-Benz? Where were we?
Yeah, we were at
Phillips Arena?
Yeah, State Farm Arena. Yeah.
We're in this huge arena, and there was like a whole seating section where the seats were taken out so strollers could fit. Like the babies were at the show with little like headphones on.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever seen that. And have you seen that before?
No.
On other tours?
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I've never seen it either.
Yeah. Would you?
It's been like a trend to be more like inclusive, and like I think because a lot of younger people are like, that's not like our parents' generation are starting to have kids and raising them like with a certain way where like they're children and they're equal, and like we don't have to stuff them at home, you know? And so I think with that, it's like society's being forced to actually like figure out spaces and make room for kids, you know?
Is that something that you would be interested in? Like if Black goes back out on tour, would you be interested in like jumping on with Six or sending Six?
I don't know. We've gone back and forth about it, and I think for just to send Six, it's like he has the whole show to run, you know, and then he'll be like also trying to navigate daddy mode and making sure she's okay. And then for me to go, it's like now I'm sacrificing whatever I could be doing to go on tour where I necessarily don't want to do that. So we definitely, at least at this age, we think it's just better, you know, like we'll go to like one stop. Like when she was a little baby, we would go like to, if he was in Michigan where my family was, we would meet him there, and, you know, she would see her dad and have that. But now it's like, we'll do that, but not, I don't think to like going on a whole thing. Like, that's no, like, I know, I would rather just like work and stay home. We'll stay home. No. Yeah. Because like, you feel like you're rearranging your life for somebody else, you know? So that would be me having to like rearrange and do all this for you, which it's not that. It would be for Six, but still it's like at some point, you know, I have to make decisions that are right for me. Yeah. So for that, it's like, no, I think and it's a lot. Like it's a rap show. It's like, you know, it's different. Like it depends. It's a lot for a baby. But we have like when she gets older and like middle school, elementary school, high school, go ahead, have fun. Six, like go see your dad. Just go to the show. Go have fun. But right now, I think it's just better, you know, for him because he just gets so like worried about Six and making sure he tries to focus, making sure she's good when, you know, he has to be also in this zone and entertain, you know? So,
yeah. Would you be, what do you foresee about that?
Yeah, I'm not, I don't think I would be interested in bringing my children on the road unless tour is set up for that. Like the tours that I've been on, they're not the type of environment that I would like to raise a child. I mean, it's super male dominated, super tech dominated, and like these people are like really toxic. They're not in touch with like
high pressure, and everybody's like dickheads trying to make sure they're getting their whatever, like their lights are good and their sound good.
And they just don't know how to interact with people. Like they're not in touch with their own like well-being. And I'm gonna have them around my children. Like, nah.
Yeah.
So
he isn't even like an artist. Like I don't think it's like not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah,
No.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean I have one word response to it, and it's just bus bathrooms, like the bathrooms.
Oh.
I'm good.
Yeah, like it's not anything I would want to do.
Yeah, so I mean, I travel for a very different type of work, and you also have your business Tender, which is a bit different too. Can we start talking a bit about Tender? Yay! So my understanding of Tender is that you curate these boxes of like mommy made products for every trimester of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Is it still true?
No, we pivoted all the way away from that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like if I've been developing Tender, like the retail side for like over a year now. And I think I've been very like whatever with it. Like when it gets done, it gets done. And the idea was for every box that was purchased, we provide a box of like essential, like childcare essentials to a mother in need, whether that be like diapers, wipes, or like a coat for an older kid, just like a box of something. And it would be like age ranges for kids, and we would give it to a mother in need. Mm-hmm. So that was what propelled me to want to do Tender. And I realized I don't really care about selling anything. And that's why I haven't done it, you know, like honestly, the boxes are in it and ready to go. Mm-hmm. I just haven't done it because I didn't care about selling anything. So we now have the Tender Foundation, which is a nonprofit, and it will be serving Atlanta mothers in need.
I love it.
Thank you. we have all the filing our paperwork and stuff, and now we're just getting ready to like launch and kind of plan out like our fundraising and like our grants and stuff like that, and figure out how we're gonna get the money. But yeah, that's where we're at now, is just figuring out how to make it a true charity and how we can help. Mm-hmm. I realized that's what I actually care about.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. First of all, how did you come up with the name Tender?
Okay, so like the same Tender Loving Care, and it was for moms, and it was for pregnant moms, and I wanted it to be like self-care, because it would be you bought these boxes to make you feel good, and it was like elevated self-care essentials in a box for mm-hmm. your trimester. Mm-hmm. And so it was like somebody's giving you tender loving care every trimester, so then we came up, that's how Tender became the name. And I just wanted it to be something to where like moms felt like they were taken care of and supported, especially because I went through my pregnancy alone. So I think I just wanted to make like, I knew how it felt to go through it alone. So I wanted to make pregnant moms feel good. And no matter if they didn't have a support system, or their partner was traveling, or their family didn't agree with their choice to get pregnant, et cetera, et cetera. It was just something you could do for yourself, or friends could do for you while you were pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in this new sort of iteration of Tender, what kind of services are you hoping to provide for women in the Atlanta area?
Okay, so our 3 like main pillars of what we're going to do is provide bill pay assistance, from like rent to utilities, food assistance through grocery store cards, stuff like that, and then necessities. So like a baby supply, to where we get car seats, strollers, diapers, wipes, winter coats, shoes, like all the things that parents just might not have, like that's extra costs that are big, Mm-hmm. So those are like our 3 main focuses, our necessities, food assistance, and then bill pay assistance.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible.
That's really cool. All of my sisters and a lot of my cousins had kids really young. And I mean, my family is really supportive in general, Yeah. But I do think there are ways that they all felt unsupported. And I just appreciate it so much. Like, this is just such a great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things that I keep learning over and over again as I'm like, what are moms about? Like, what's the society like for moms now? Like, what am I going to expect? What should I be looking for? And the thing that I keep seeing over and over again is sort of this societal disregard for moms and motherhood. And I mean, looking back even in my own childhood, I can see the ways that I sort of took advantage of my mom in ways that I didn't take advantage of my dad.
Yeah.
Or took my mom for granted, I guess is a better way to say it.
I had a conversation with somebody the other day when I said basically like, it took me becoming a mom to realize my mom's humanity, because until I was 20, I didn't realize that my mom was a whole person outside of being my mom. Like, she's not there to serve me. She like has interests and goals and hobbies and dreams, you know? And it took me to be an adult to realize it wasn't just to do my laundry and cook and take care of me. Yeah. That was like, I had an epiphany when I had a child, and I was like, wow, moms have hobbies. Like, my mom is not here. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you are a complete idiot for not realizing this earlier, that you're like, go apologize to your mother right now. I apologize to my mom, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, because it took me having a kid and people not thinking that became like my identity, you know, a mom. Yeah. And so I was like, wow, that's like, it really, I had to be like, wow, my mom is a human. Yeah. And that's crazy to me that it took me that long to realize it.
Yeah. I was living in Seoul when I turned 30, and my mom was 30 when she had me, and she came and visited for the month of March, which was my birthday month. And I don't know if she said it or if I said it, because I knew she was 60, but it just sort of really rocked me to my core. Like, I'm out here. Like, I live a real cute life out here, like internationally jet setting. And at this age, she legitimately had like 3 kids and like, you know, like more to come. Yeah. And I was just like, I can barely feed myself 3 times a day. Like, she kept whole humans alive and thriving, like at this age.
Yeah. Same. I had the same experience. Like, I was 25, 26. And my mom was 26 when she had my older brother. And I was just like, what would I do? What?
Yeah, what would I do with a baby right now? Like, no, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. My mom was cool in jobs, and I still, like, she cooked dinner every night, you know? Yeah. I didn't know how to do my laundry until I moved out. And I was like, this is...
What are all these buttons?
I felt so bad when I realized, like, my mom... and I think that's where I get my, like, selflessness as a mother from, was because that's what my mom gave me, you know? Mm-hmm. I say all the time that my only job as Six's mom is to serve her. And I think that's because, like, that's what I saw my mom do for me. And so, like, subconsciously, I just like was like, oh, that's what a mom is. So like, I appreciate that and stuff, but I feel like I really do feel like an idiot for like not disregarding her as a human.
Right. But I think our society really encourages us to disregard mothers as humans. Like, I don't know if you're following sort of the Black maternal health crisis stuff happen. I mean, you probably are more than me, but I just, the more I read about it, the more surprised I am. I had always heard the term 6-week checkup, and I'd always known like, like you go back and see the doctor and they check everything up. But it just didn't, once I really looked at it fully and saw like, when that baby comes out, you sort of cease to exist. Like, the doctors and nurses are really focused on this baby and checking the baby, which is wonderful. But then the mom is just kind of sort of left to ... insert how women keep dying after childbirth, not during childbirth. Right. It's after, in that 6 weeks, that like, blood pressure issues or hemorrhaging or infections or whatever it is. How has this sort of situation impacted you as a Black mom?
So for me, I have a blood disorder. So immediately my pregnancy was high risk. Immediately everybody was like, you're gonna die. Like my mom was like terrified, and it was, and it was crazy. So like, I think I've always been hyper aware of these things. When I got pregnant, I was like, I have to educate myself because I'm going to be the only person to advocate for myself in that moment. I got diagnosed when I was a teen, like early teens, like 14. And I've had to learn how to advocate for myself with that. And so I think I knew that I was going to have to advocate for myself with that and being pregnant. So I've been hyper aware of those issues going into it. And so for me, I researched everything. I read everything. And I was going to like an OBGYN because everybody was like, you have to go to an OBGYN. Like you need a specialty doctor and you have to have blood on hand when you have to have blood in case you need a transfusion. And what I really wanted to do was have a home birth. So I was like, fine, whatever. And then I didn't feel right at all to me. Like I didn't feel like my doctor cared. I didn't feel like she was taking like my concerns serious. She was just like, we'll schedule, like you'll get your treatment for your blood disorder and then we'll schedule your labor 2 weeks later because we know that's when your numbers are going to be highest and safest for you to deliver. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like I just want Six to come when she's ready. I don't want to do that. And I was like, no, I hate it. So I switched to a midwife. Like I was in my 3rd trimester. And then I had a meeting with the specialty doctor there. And I walked out of the meeting like, I can actually do this. Like, and I can do it how I want to do it, and I was like very zen and I was like, I can do this. So yeah, for me, it's just being like just hyper aware and learning how to advocate for yourself. And I think as a parent, you have to, it's like your first like experience in learning how to be a parent, because at the end of the day, I have to advocate for Six in school and have her pediatrician for the rest of her life. I'm going to be the first person to stand up for her, So I had to start while I was pregnant too, to make sure that I was safe and she was safe.
And the midwife knew what to do. Like the midwife was familiar with you.
I went to See Baby, and that it's like a really good midwifery practice in Atlanta, but they have a specialty like doctor that for high risk pregnancies, you can still, like a midwife can still deliver, but you just have your specialty like OBGYN. Just basically, I met him twice maybe, and he overlooked everything. Dr. Boots Taylor, wonderful doctor. He just overlooks and like oversees and makes sure everything is fine, So yeah, and they knew, like they were like, he's like, oh yeah, I've delivered women I have ITP. He's like, everything has been fine. You can do it. You're not like, it's rare, but you're not like the only one, like you can do it. And I did it. So it's like, it wasn't like, oh no, it's just like, you can do it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad those options were available, number one. And that within those options that the care providers were really supportive. Yeah. Like those.
Dr. Boots Taylor's a Black man though as well. So I think that's good to add, because I think when you're dealing with, if you're a Black person, I think it's great to have Black medical care providers.
Yes.
Like
people who no matter what can see your humanity.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, based on studies, it has been said they don't, like, that's why things are happening. That's why women are dying, because they don't register our pain on the same scale. Right. They don't believe our issues,
Right.
So would definitely recommend having
crazy. That's still crazy to me.
And they don't believe that we know our body. Like they don't believe that we know more about ourselves than they know about us.
And it trickles down to children. The studies have shown that teachers see don't see Black boys' pain as real, you know? So I like all of those things are like infuriating.
It's a boy. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Okay. All right,
yeah.
Sorry.
No. It is. It's insane. So, you told me that you were able to steam during your postpartum period. Can you talk a little bit about how you got introduced to steaming?
So, like I said, I researched everything. I wanted to have a home birth, blah, 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 blah. So my natural like inclination is to always do everything natural, to everything at home, and reject kind of all of Western medicine. So I just read everything, and I came across like sitz baths first, and then I read about steaming, and I was kind of like, okay, you know what? I think I can do both. Like I got like the sitz bath stuff and the herbs and stuff, and I just did it myself. And then when the water was cool enough to where I could like steam, but not like sit in it, you know, and I kind of just wrapped the towel over, and I just did it myself. I was like, both of these sound like they're going to be good for me. Like, you know, it won't hurt anything. I mean, just give it a go. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go and get it done and do it like professionally, kind of just like DIY'd it. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was like an integral part of, part of my like postpartum self-care routine.
Mm-hmm. And then, well, how did it impact your recovery? Like, what were some of the effects that you felt? Like, how did it help you?
For me, I had like a really easy delivery. I didn't have any tearing or anything, like natural. It was fine. So
knock on.
Yeah. I wish that for everybody. That's my main fear about having my next one. I'm like, I had the easiest delivery ever. If anything else goes wrong, I'm going to be a big baby, and I'm going to be like, wow, this is so painful. So yeah, I'm like terrified, because I'm like, please just go the same way. So for me, it was like, it kind of felt like you just had like a really bad period almost for me. And I just knew, and it was like sore and swollen, of course, and all those things. But by me doing that, I feel by 2 weeks, I was like, fine. I was like, whatever. Like, I just gave a baby. I'm walking. Like, I was fine. Mm-hmm. And
that's so beautiful.
No, that's not the usual, you know, like that's not the normal. So I would definitely do everything that I did over again, because it worked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually know the statistics, honestly, but I do have lots and lots of women in my life who had and continue to have very easy births. Yeah. But we get shown sort of like screaming and clawing and like just sort of madness. And I don't necessarily, I mean, I definitely thought that was going to have to be my reality, because that was the story that I was handed. But my cousin Colleen, she was like, she had the baby, I think she had Violetta at like 11 a.m. maybe. And then 6 p.m. she was calling me, and I was like, what's wrong? Like, what's happening? And she was like, are you coming to see this baby or not? And I was like, okay, you're at the hospital. And she's like, I'm at home. Like, and she answered the door. Like, she was like, it feels like maybe I rode a horse for like 100 miles, but I'm good.
Yeah, that's literally what it feels like. And it's like a little sore when you're walking long distances for a while. But it's like, I was like, this is fine. This is great. I will do it again. And I was like, yes, give me more babies. I'm going to do this again. So I don't really know how it is to have like a hard delivery and stuff. And when I was pregnant, I made like very intentional about not consuming like horror stories or things like that. I literally only read and watched positive birth stories and stuff like that. I was very like, I don't want to hear about it. Don't tell me what your cousin did. I don't care. Like, lady, random lady. Or don't talk to me right now. Like,
random grocery store lady.
You're not going to jinx me, baby. That's what you're not going to do, is jinx me. So keep that.
Random cashier. Just because you see me pregnant, get out of here.
Yeah.
I was just very intentional and protective of that, because I was like, that's not my reality. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm.
That's so smart.
That's what I did to heal. I did a lot of like the little pads, sitz baths, the steams, and that's it.
You mean the padsicles?
Yeah. Yeah. Have fun making those.
That's such a funny name. Okay, so did you get a chance to read the 4th Trimester Vaginal Steam Study? You did. Okay. What are your thoughts on it? Like when you were reading it, after you finished reading it, what were your first sort of reactions?
I feel like for me, I was like, yeah, thank you. Like it was like reaffirming, you know, because you like spend so much time at me. I was obsessed. Like I was obsessed with like learning what to do and the process and what was happening in my body and what was going to happen after and blah, blah, blah. So like I was very obsessive and I read everything. And of course, when I heard about steaming, I read everything I could about steaming, you know? So it was like reaffirming, and it was like, we know this now, and now hopefully it will be like widely accepted, you know?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. It's really interesting. I recently started having postpartum steam clients,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, the postpartum steam clients who are just like, yeah, I believe it's going to work, go for it. And then those that are like, I'll try it, but my doctor said it doesn't do anything. The thing that I appreciate most about this study is that it's not anecdotal. Like we have centuries of anecdotal evidence that it works. Yeah. But now finally we have like some hard data, which I hope people who don't trust anecdotes will be able to sort of like, you know, like be like, okay, this makes sense to me.
You know, like, so I feel like more women should at least have the option.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to learn about the study?
The study, you sent it to me.
Oh.
I sent it to her.
Oh, so it was like after a panel.
Yeah. I didn't even know there was a study. That I thought it was really cool. I was like, wow, this is crazy that you got to do this and like be a part of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really cool. I learned a lot. Was there anything in the findings that surprised you?
The one thing I didn't know was like how it is in relation to your blood pressure and stuff. I didn't know anything about that. In my, like, all of mine, it was like, you know, it helps with healing and et cetera, et cetera. But in my head, I never made the, like, correlation between it could help with, like, blood pressure and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was what I was surprised about.
I was surprised, too, not because I didn't know. Because, I get stressed out very easily, but people usually can't tell from my outward appearance that I'm super stressed out, and I can tell now. But like, everything's happening inside. Like, I look really calm outside, but there's like elevated heart rate and like my eyeballs are pulsating. But steaming is one of the ways that I always sort of relax and de-stress. Mm-hmm. Like I deep breathe, and so I know that like, when I first sit down, of course, it warms you up a bit, which makes you think that it'll make your blood pressure maybe rise a little bit. But it just takes maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then everything calms. Like,
yeah, think about it, like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really surprised by that, even. But now, like you explaining how it works, it definitely makes sense, and it is. And I think because women approach it with like a self-care mindset, they go into it and it relaxes them, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think that helps too.
Mm-hmm. And then of course the herbs help. Yeah. But then also because it is a circular, steam is so good for circulation. That's why doctors use it for like respiratory care. And that's why like we go to spas and stuff. But like also the herbs in there, a lot of them regulate blood pressure. A lot of them regulate or impact the organs that regulate blood pressure, your heart and your spleen and your liver and your kidneys and your adrenals. So if you have the right herbs, of course, it fixes it. That was the same thing that surprised me, but less about the blood pressure stuff and more about blood pressure's relationship to preeclampsia. Like the fact that it like really sort of like dropped everyone's blood pressure that was in the steaming group, but then also kept it within a healthy range, but at the lower end of the healthy range was, I was just like, we need 100 more studies right now. Like,
because preeclampsia is like very scary. So if that can be something like a preventative type of thing, then that's a tool, you know?
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And nurses can be, I mean, you know, like doctors and nurses can be trained in a day or two on how to just use it inside the hospital to bring blood pressure down. Yeah.
So I have one question. What things would you recommend? I guess how should spouses interact with like you know, the pregnancy portion and postpartum time? Like, what advice do you have for spouses during the process?
I think personally for me, it was like being really supportive, you know, and just like, you have a baby attached to you, like from the beginning. Like all they want to do is nurse, and that's draining. Like all your newborn is going to want to do is sleep and nurse. Okay. So for me, it was like making sure I'm eating and making sure I'm fed. And like, that's really was my number one, like just, and then you also have with like nursing and delivery, you have a bunch of hormones and they're trying to balance out, but you're still nursing. So your hormones aren't going to be balanced until you're done nursing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with all of these like wildly dropping levels and your emotions, but also this like newborn baby bliss. So I feel like, and that like the space of when you just had a baby to like the 6 weeks postpartum, just like, I just needed her dad to kind of be like a sounding board for me. Cause when I was spiraling and being like, oh my gosh, or I was like elated and just making sure I wasn't going crazy, like making sure you could just like talk and bounce all your like range of emotions off of each other, you know, because you're going to feel like one thing to the whole other. Like, you're like, how am I going to do this? And oh my gosh, this little baby I have to raise for the rest of my life, you know? So I think right then, like partner is definitely just making sure you're like physically taken care of, but also like you're emotionally well and you're just like showing up and being willing to just deal with whatever crazy stuff is going to come out of my mouth at that moment in my delirious, tired, newborn baby stage, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the two like most important things as for like postpartum recovery for sure. And also just like making sure that my space like is, what's the word? Like respected, I think, because a lot of people are like, oh, can I come see the baby? And oh, like blah, 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 blah. And sometimes, especially in the beginning days, you're like, I don't want anybody to touch the baby. Don't even look at the baby. You have germs. But I also don't have I just don't have the energy to interact and entertain. You know, like when people come to your house, it's like your natural is try to make sure everybody else is comfortable. And like, you don't have the energy to do that right then.
Yeah.
You don't have the energy to give yourself to anybody but the baby. So I think another thing that's really important is kind of just making sure that baby and mom is protected and you're making sure whatever she wants is followed and, you know, just protecting their space.
How can spouses be supportive during like steaming time? Like how, because I mean, for me, like, Jale's like the smartest person I know. And so like, if she's doing something, I know it's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just kind of trust it. And then I learn as I go. And it's like, okay, well, this is what it is. But I know a lot of people don't have that relationship and they don't have that interaction, you know?
I think that like Six's dad is kind of basically the same, you know. He's like, you know, I see that like your obsession and like he's like, you're like a natural to these sort of things. And so he was like, he pretty much follows my lead on things, and we discuss, and, you know, we go back and forth and make sure we're both comfortable. But with that, he did definitely just kind of like follow my lead with things. But I think it's always good to just be able to have like an open dialogue, you know, even if you don't agree or you're like, what is this going to do? Like, I ate like 6 dates a day in my 3rd trimester, and like I drank like gallons of this weird gross tasting tea, and he would like, of course, what's going on here? Like, what are you doing? Like, whatever. And then like, go eat your dates if that's what you're doing. Yeah. Not always like understood why. It was just like being supportive and like, you know. So I think during those times, it's just like being supportive and being able to talk. And then if it's things like steaming, if the baby doesn't need to nurse, like just let her get that steam time alone, you know? Because a lot of times she's not going to have a lot of alone time. So anytime you can carve out the time for mom to be alone, and just, especially in the early days, just have some 3 seconds alone, like that's important too.
Yeah. I also sort of feel like, I mean, I have almost the opposite question. I feel like men or non-birthing partners, but really, especially in this society, men are sort of treated like pregnancy and childcare are just not their domain, and they should be far, far away. They should not be there for the birth. They should not be present. They should not be changing diapers. They should, like, they're not carers. They're not nurturers, which is sick, I think. Were there ways that Six's dad really wanted to be able to have a hand in nurturing and caring? Or were there surprising ways that he provided something you really needed in that space that wasn't, you were, you know, like we don't recognize it as being like. We had kind of like a really weird start because he missed her birth, you know, like, and it wasn't intentional. He had to listen to her be born on the phone, and then he had to walk on stage and perform a show. So I think that is for him, like, people might not realize it because they don't expect men to care or something, but I think that was like a traumatic event for him, you know?
I can imagine.
It's his first baby, you know? And I think other people didn't realize how that missing her birth could affect him and how that made him feel, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think even there, people don't realize, like, it's like, oh, it's fine. Like, you didn't give birth, but still that's his kid. So that, I think, it even accounts to it. And for me, I think, like, when as a mom, you kind of tend to be like everything you think is right, you know? And so for me, watching him be a dad and like I'm learning how to be a mom and he's learning how to be a dad, I think it was me knowing when to kind of back off and know, like, okay, I do things this way and he does things this way. You know, he has to figure out what works for him and if this works for me, because, you know, we are 2 totally different parents, and I did have boobs, so that just nurse and everything's better, but he had to figure out different ways to parent and like help Six and etc. So yeah, I think that was surprising to me, was learning how to back off and like give them their space to bond and figure out how things worked and stuff within their relationship. So yeah, that's been like, that was always really cool to watch and see like it grow, especially now that she's like older and she's around more. She like this weekend he was performing and she was able to be like, Papa, and like she recognized that was her dad on stage and stuff like that. So it still surprises me, like even 2.5 years in, and like all those things still are really, it's nice to see like especially like a Black dad. It's surprising for me to see how those like things play out, and it's nice, and you're like get all warm and fuzzy inside, you know.
Yeah. That's when you were talking about really sort of trusting him to develop his own relationship with Six. It's sort of like why I had this T-shirt made. It's a message for me.
What does it say?
Worry about yourself.
Listeners?
It says worry about yourself. And it's, I don't know if you saw this. There was like a news story of like a metro worker who was just off duty and having something to eat. And there was a girl who tweeted like, one of your workers is eating on the train. And she was like, worry about yourself. And the girl ended up like losing her book deal. And, like really, I really need to do this more, I think, in our relationship. And I can see myself being sort of like a helicopter mom.
Absolutely.
And I really like in all things, like the one thing I really don't take good care of is myself. Seriously.
Yeah.
So I think across my life, like this shirt is for me. Worry about me. I need to worry about myself. Get myself together.
I think it's important because, people do say, like dads, they're just babysitters and, like the dads don't have to do anything. And it's like, especially now, it's like, it's the mom's job to take care of them. So by like backing up and giving your partner space to like parent his way and all of that, like that, I think one makes him more confident as a dad, like in the beginning, especially since he was away a lot, he like would get overwhelmed and be like, like, can I bring Six here and blah, blah, blah. But as you give them their space and they learn, like you have to learn how to parent, even, I'm still learning. So I think it's really important to give dads like their space to figure it out and learn, because that's how they get confident as a parent. And that's how you have a dad that isn't just like, can I drop them off here for 7 to 8 so I can go to dinner, please? Like a dad that's a babysitter, like and raising the kids. So for me, I think it's definitely important to stop treating dads as though they like aren't nurturers, because he's the same. Like I feel like both parents are nurturers, period. Like that's your child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful message to end on. Jaycina, thank you so much. Will you tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you, where they can find your work, how they can follow you?
All right, guys. You can just find Jaycina, Jaycina, anything. You can type that into Twitter, Instagram, and then you can find Tender at wearetender.com. And that's it.
Wonderful. Any upcoming campaigns we should look out for?
What's fun that's coming out? I don't think I have anything fun coming out.
Okay, cool.
Nothing fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been such a joy, and we learned so much from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that stuff with us.
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Have a wonderful day.
Can't wait to hear when you guys are pregnant.
I'll keep you updated.
I'm looking out for the announcement.
I'll definitely let you know. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Now it's time for
Mansplaining with Mike.
I don't know what that was.
I liked it.
All right, so it's time for Mansplaining with Mike, where I do my little bootleg recap of the entire episode today. So I'll start with our interview with the lovely Jaycina. So she is a mommy, and she's a model, and she is the model mommy, and she's got a lovely daughter named Six. She came into Steamy, so she got pregnant young, and so many fears come up when you're going through a change like that when you're really young or whatever. So she going to the doctor and stuff, and they were like, you got to go to this gyno. And her gyno's there was just like, don't worry about it. We got you. Don't worry about it. And like, she didn't really feel supported like by like the doctor in like Western medicine. And so she was just like, something ain't right here. So she decided to do like her own research and found out about like midwives and stuff. And so she ended up going the midwife route and had a great experience. They really took care of her. They understood her blood deficiency, and like she had a really good experience like giving birth to her daughter. So that's great. And we talked about like, you know, the father being a musician and him traveling a lot and how that affects her and him, you know, around the birth, around decisions around like raising the child and where to raise and how we get to spend time. How can he bond if he's traveling a lot? How can she feel support if she's the only one doing stuff? And so yeah, we talked about that kind of stuff. You know, he toured the first 2 years of her life, and you know, people don't realize that even from the father's perspective, like not being there is real trauma that father is experiencing or can be experiencing. You know, so shout out to him. You know, sending him some more love on that. Yeah, and you know, we went further into Jaycina talking about mothers not feeling supported, which led to her starting her company, now nonprofit, called Tender. And it's based around like tender love and care and just being really gentle and supportive and loving to mothers who don't have access to some of the necessities they need or some of the services they need or even just some of the love that they may need to help them through these times. Yeah, but we talked about being working parents and figuring out how to balance having a small child and work-life balance. You know, we see and hear that phrase a lot, but like as we understand it, there ain't no balance. You just figure it out. You just got to make it happen, you know, by any means necessary. And we talked about like how it just happens. There's nothing you can really plan for, but like you just figure it out. It's got to get done. And if you're the one here or the two people here, you get it done. Yeah. So we talked about that, and then earlier, Jean and I talked about different things around like our feelings around parenting, and then our feelings around beauty. And yeah, that was today's episode.
Good job, baby. Can I make one correction?
Mm-hmm.
The kind of doctor that we visit when we're going to have a baby is specifically an obstetrician.
Oh.
Most of those doctors can do both OBGYN, obstetricians,
gotcha.
and gynecology.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. But when we're talking about babies, we usually only say my obstetrician.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Learn something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you
Thank you.
for another episode of Baby Sing It.
Hot Steamy Pod. The Hot Steamy Podcast. Hot Steamy Podcast.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hot and Steamy Podcast. Feedback is gold, so please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This podcast was made possible by our sponsors Kelly Garza of Steamy Chick and Kimberly Ann Johnson of Maga Mamas. Visit our website for more information on them and our other guests, to view extras, and to purchase merch. That's www.hotsteamypodcast.com. www.hotsteamypodcast.com.